Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm Bob Ladenson. I've been in API meetings since API was founded back in 1991. For over 40 years, I was a professor in the humanities department at the Illinois Institute of Technology in Chicago, and I specialized in ethics, political philosophy, social philosophy. I also have a law background and for 20 years was a special education due process hearing officer in the state of Illinois. And I'm here to talk about the Ethics Bowl, which I was a key person involved in creating it, in developing it, and organizing it. Okay, the question is, how did the Ethics Bowl get started? How did it begin? What was my role? Uh, a member of the board of our Center for Ethics at IIT at a brainstorming session threw out the idea, why don't we have an ethics bowl? And my colleague Vivian Weil, who was the director of the Ethics Center, said, yes, let's run with it. And I didn't know what was going on, and I thought it was bizarre at the time. But to make a very long story short, something about the idea of adapting the old college bowl format from television to make it relevant to the subject of ethics resonated with me. And I played around with it. I developed a set of rules and a format for an ethics bowl, a trial ethics bowl session at Illinois Tech. And it went from there. The very first ethics bowl had some very, let me put it this way, it had some very serious gaps and omissions in the rules and procedures and format. And at times during that first ethics bowl, which was something that we organized on the fly at IIT, we recruited students to be on teams. And we recruited also three distinguished persons from the Chicago area to be judges. But beyond that, we had very little worked out. Most importantly, we hadn't worked out the criteria of evaluation. And as a result, understandably, our distinguished judges decided they couldn't possibly rate the students. So it fell to yours truly, who was moderating the event. And as a result, predictably, I made a number of inconsistent judgments, which created, I'll just say, vigorous disagreements. And I felt at the time the way a producer of a media program must feel when she watches this carefully planned activity implode before her very eyes with millions watching. But the audience began to argue with the teams, and at one point, one of the judges got into a verbal spat with a representative from our campus ROTC about sexual harassment in the Navy. And I just felt like sinking into the floor. But to my incredible surprise, when it was over, it was clear everybody loved it. So when it was all over, the idea of making this really into something that made sense educationally just stuck with me. And throughout the year, I pondered how that could be done. And at the end of the year, I had worked, this was in 1994, I had worked out a provisional pattern for how an ethics bowl would actually proceed. And I tried it out in my ethics class, and it seemed to work very well. And really, the rest is history. The next year, we had a much better organized internal ethics bowl at the Illinois Institute of Technology with student teams. And then the year after that, that was so successful that we had the first Intercollegiate Ethics Bowl, which was at our school. There were 3 other schools in the area, DePaul, Loyola, that Pat Werhane was associated with as a faculty member for many years, and Western Michigan University, which is not far away in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and our school, Illinois Tech. They were the first 4 teams in an ethics bowl, and we had a wonderful group of judges from the Chicago area, including a woman I was acquainted with who later became the assistant to the Speaker of the House of Representatives in the Illinois State Legislature, and other people of the same kinds of stature. And it then continued at IIT for several years, and by 1995, 1996, 1997, the first ethics bowl at the Association for Practical and Professional Ethics, the API Intercollegiate Ethics Bowl, which I'll refer to from now on by its acronym, API-IEB. The first API-IEB took place in 1997 in Washington, D.C., and it's continued ever since. It's now 30 years. After that first ethics bowl at API, the interest and support that it generated among API members was tremendous. Large numbers of our colleagues volunteered spontaneously to help in organizing the bowl, playing different roles as judges, as moderators. Later in this discussion, I'll give a short summary of the format of an ethics bowl competition, but it's very people intensive. It requires a lot of work by a lot of individuals, but they were there, all volunteers. And after 6 years, the Ethics Bowl at the Association for Practical and Professional Ethics, API, the API-IEB, became a victim of its own popularity. There were, for several years, there were 40 participating schools. And that number, 40, I learned, this is something I had no idea of before because of not having prior experience. that's the absolute limit of breakout rooms in an American hotel. You can't get any more. So there was a space limitation that we were up against. And the result of that was that for several years we had waiting lists of schools that wanted to take part in the API-IEB. For several years there were 20 schools on the waiting list. So we had to address that. And it took a long time, 3 years, to organize and plan a different kind of structure to the API-IEB, making it a tiered competition, sort of on the model of the NCAA National Basketball Championship. The idea was that there would be different regional ethics bowls, and the top scoring teams in the regional ethics bowls would come to the API-IEB meeting to compete for the national championship. And as I said, it took a lot of planning. I organized a planning and organizing committee, which ultimately involved work by 25 or 30 different people to develop the myriad details and address the complications that are involved in putting together something on that scale for and just fast forwarding very quickly. In 1997, we had the first API-IEB in its current form. I think there were we had 32 participating teams at the championship, and nationwide about 80 or 90 schools took part in it. Since that time, since 1997, the API-IEB has continued to grow and flourish. Now I believe the current number is somewhere in the area of 150 schools throughout the United States that take part in the API-IEB. And in the period since the first API-IEB in its expanded form took place in 1997, a number of the Ethics Bowl has grown, it's expanded. Our API colleague Lisa Lee did a research, and according to her study, I think there are now 18 Ethics Bowl competitions functioning throughout the world, and 7 of them are outside the United States.
It's terrific.
And okay, something important. Oh yes, the most significant of the offshoots or of API. I shouldn't say offshoots, because all of these other ethics bowls are organized and function independently of the API-IEB. And the most important, I can say, among them is the National High School Ethics Bowl, which is headquartered at the Parr Center of the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. And it has vast, large amount of participation. It's roughly double the number of teams in the API-IEB. I think it's something like 330 high schools throughout the United States take part in the API-IEB, which of course, is a separate organization. It functions independently of the IEB, but we're we're laboring in the same vineyard. We interact together. We communicate frequently. Okay, here is a summary of the format and the procedures and the rules of an ethics bowl match. There's two teams. The two teams will have 3 to 5 student members, a moderator, and 3 judges. And in the match, the moderator asks the teams questions that pose ethical issues over a wide range of areas, issues about crucial questions in the public sector relating to law, current controversies of public policy, issues of economic justice, healthcare, but also ethical issues that students confront in the educational setting: cheating, plagiarism, college admissions, affirmative action, and so forth. Ethics in personal relationships, dating, friendship, and so on. And professional ethics, questions about ethics that arise in engineering and law and medicine and so forth. And here is a summary of the format of an ethics bowl match. There's 2 teams of 3 to 5 students, a moderator, and 3 judges. The moderator poses a question to one of the teams, and the team then has 2 minutes to confer, and I believe it's 10 minutes to make a presentation of its answer on the question. But the team doesn't respond cold, because 6 weeks before the Ethics Bowl takes place, all the participants, the teams, the judges, the moderator, receive a set of cases, and the questions asked of teams at the Ethics Bowl all come from the set of cases. There's always 15 to 17 cases that everyone receives. And team 1 has had 6, what I'll call team 1, the team that's presenting on the case, has had a considerable period of time to discuss the case among the team members and develop a response to it. After the team has made its presentation, the other team, the opposing team, is given an opportunity to comment on the presentation of the presenting team. It gets 5 minutes, and likewise, like the presenting team, it has seen the case already, it has thought about it, and just has a few minutes to kind of, the teams don't get the questions, but they've seen the cases before. So the second team, the commenting team, has an opportunity to confer briefly and then present its commentary. The presenting team then has an opportunity to respond to the commentary. It has 5 minutes to present its response. And then the two teams rest, and the judges, the three judges, who again have all read the case beforehand, have an opportunity to, the judges pose questions. There's a 10-minute question and answer period in which the judges pose questions to the excuse me, the presenting team about its presentation. Then, after the period of question and answer to the judges is over, the teams flip. The team that commented in the first round is given a case and it presents. The team that presented in the first round comments on the case, and the same format is followed, just with the roles of the teams reversed. So that's the essential procedural format of an ethics bowl session. In the National Ethics Bowl, the API-IEB, it's exhausting. There's three preliminary rounds. Then quarterfinals, a semifinal, finals. It's an entire day of ethics bowl, and the winner after that ordeal is designated as the victor for that year in the Intercollegiate Ethics Bowl. So I should mention what I've described as the sort of the bare bones procedural skeleton of the Ethics Bowl, as those who are hearing this conversation might imagine. All different kinds of complex and subtle issues of interpretations of rules can arise. One of the most important parts of the organizational structure of the API-IEB is a rules committee, which I would say at this point continuously reviews rules, revises them, discusses them. The full Ethics Bowl rules are available. One can see them on the API website. So that's how an Ethics Bowl match proceeds, and let's see. I believe I spoke very briefly earlier about the history of the Ethics Bowl. I'm no longer at the helm of the Ethics Bowl. In fact, it's been now over a decade since I retired from my role as director of and coordinator of the Ethics Bowl. Since I retired, I think now three other people have taken that position. The API-IEB, like any organization, has organizational rules. There's a fixed term for a director of the Ethics Bowl, and because of the size to which it's grown, there is now a substantial number of committees. There's a case writing committee, a rules committee. I think what's truly exceptional about Ethics Bowl is that the whole thing is 100% volunteer. I think paid staff consists of some two very able people who deal with administrative tasks at the Association for Practical and Professional Ethics, but from the top all the way down to the ground, it's volunteer faculty, which I think is a tremendous testimony to the kind of commitment and interest that Ethics Bowl inspires. So where do I stand? What's my role in the Ethics Bowl at this time? Well, I remember very well the year would have been 2010. That was the last year that I had that I was the person at the Ethics Bowl where the buck stopped. And during that 2009 Ethics Bowl, throughout the day, I was still a judge. I served as a judge in matches at the event. And throughout the day, as we had to move from one room to another in the large hotel where the event took place, colleagues asked me how it felt no longer to be at the helm. And I remember I had a stock answer. I'd say to them, well, you know, with every hour it feels better and better. It's a tremendous challenge, but the Ethics Bowl is a part of me now. It's to use a phrase from the philosopher John Dewey, I have feelings about the Ethics Bowl that go to the depths of my being, and I'll always be in it as long as I'm able in one capacity or another. So I'm a judge, and I was I was very deeply honored some years ago that an award that's given out annually at the Ethics Bowl for the team whose conduct, whose interactions with the other teams during the competition best exemplifies the spirit of the Ethics Bowl, of collegiality, of careful thought, of the ideals of ethical understanding, which I'll talk about shortly. An award is given to a team that exemplifies those ideals best by a vote of its peer competitors. And I was very deeply honored that award was named in my honor. I remember feeling a little embarrassed at the time, but that it was announced. But I think that was because I just didn't fully understand the importance of that award. Hadn't really come home to me, and I'd say it means a very great deal to me. I think that brings us to the subject of the Ethics Bowl's objectives. What are we trying to accomplish, really? And in the Ethics Bowl in the most important respects. So I'd like to, if I can, I'd like to say something about those objectives. If you'll bear with me, this is a very important topic. So I have some notes here, which I'm going to look at. Okay. The EPIEB begins, there's a key premise, I think, from which the Ethics Bowl begins, and that is that many of the issues that the students face during high school, during their undergraduate years, and which they're going to face as they go out beyond their undergraduate life to either to continue their education or go into various professions and walks of life. Many of the issues they're going to confront are complex, they're controversial, they're difficult to resolve, they're highly viewpoint dependent in the sense that where a person comes out on them depends on things like that person's views of human nature, the way that person ranks different kinds of values, and so forth. This applies across the board to issues that are of public importance and come into play in one's role as a citizen in a democracy, but also in their professional lives and in their lives as human beings interacting with their families and friends. And so what role can education play in all of this? And I believe it can make there's three especially valuable and distinctive contributions in this regard. It can help students develop a framework of analysis for dealing with, and in some cases struggling with, these kinds of difficult questions that are hard to resolve intellectually and often emotionally. Education can provide an opportunity for students to acquire valuable information that's relevant for addressing the questions, and which have special importance given their interests, concerns, and career aspirations. And I think above all, it can foster the capacity for ethical understanding. So I'd like to say something about what I mean by ethical understanding. The positions that people take on these complex and difficult to resolve questions that are highly viewpoint dependent depend to a great degree on the person's individual politics, their personal values, their gender, their religion. I mean, many things go into the mix, and even we have ethical theories like the theory of utilitarianism and the theory of the theories associated with the philosopher Immanuel Kant, which attempt to make some kind of structure out of the decision process of ethics. But even in terms of these highly rational philosophies, nobody thinks reasonably that you can address that there's such a thing as pure neutrality from which you can address the question totally uninfluenced by any of these other matters. So what is ethical understanding then? And I believe, and I think many people connected with the Ethics Bowl believe it consists to a very large extent in being able, having some capacity to view from the inside the ethical outlooks of people who disagree with you. And that means not simply being aware of what these people have said or what they've written, or being able to develop nifty debaters' responses to the viewpoints they hold, but really looking inside the other view and trying to understand it from the other person's way of looking at the world. And okay, so very difficult. Well, how can we develop? What are the capacities that are needed for ethical understanding in this sense, and can they be taught? Well, to begin, it seems evident to me that there's an essential social political background. There has to be a very strong and effective right of free speech in the society. People have to be able to say what they think, and without fear of the consequence of being deprived of their freedom, or even worse, tortured or killed. But the existence of a strong right of free speech it's necessary and vital, but it's not enough. It's far from enough. Other background conditions have to be present, and those I concluded really amount to an environment that has what I reduced to three crucial characteristics. One of them is that people feel strongly motivated to state their own views. You know, you're not reluctant to talk. There's a wonderful witty song by the jazz composer and writer Mose Allison. I'm not talking. That's the title of the song. If I said things are splendid, someone would get offended. If I said things are awful, it might just be unlawful. I ain't talking. It just don't pay. You know, that can't be the background. The background has to be one where people are motivated to talk freely. They're motivated, but in addition, they're motivated to listen carefully to other people who talk freely. And third, everyone has to be motivated to converse in a way that brings out clearly the similarities and differences in the way that one another of us thinks. Not easy, but that's what's needed. And I think the special value of the Ethics Bowl is that it's structured to develop and promote these three characteristics, which are so essential but so hard to get. For example, feeling prepared and willing and even ready and eager to talk, to have meaningful discussion. How does the Ethics Bowl support that? Well, let me give an example. Okay, recapitulating, in an ethics bowl match, the moderator poses a question to one of the teams. The team presents its answer to the moderator's question. Then the opposing team comments on the presenting team. The presenting team responds. There's kind of a structured interaction of statement response, and then you get judges who go after the presenting team, and this is repeated for both teams. So you have a kind of structure of conversation. But this raises an interesting, an important procedural question. What happens if the commenting team agrees with the presentation of the presenting team? Does that stop the ethics bowl? Well, no, it certainly doesn't. And here's the answer. Why? The ethics bowl cases are written by a team of case writers who've had a lot of experience with the ethics bowl. They have a sense of what will work and what wouldn't work well as an ethics bowl question. So all of these questions, or at least hopefully, they're prepared with the aim of being deep questions, factually complex, interesting. And so realistically, it's never happened in an ethics bowl that the presenting team absolutely blew away the commenting team. The commenting team was left speechless. Didn't have anything to say. That doesn't happen. Are there cases where the commenting team agrees with the presenting team? Yes, there are. But in those cases, the commenting team will, for example, often not entirely agree with the chain of reasoning of the presenting team that led them to their conclusion. Or even if they agree with the line of argument, there may be none of these questions are ever completely closed, and they may think that there's an important component of the whole issue that the presenting team had not given enough attention to. So what it's all about, the aim of a good commentary is how it continues the conversation. It's kind of conversation enhancing. That's what it's for. So I'm just gonna check my notes. Ethics Bowl promotes open-mindedness. Before a team gets to the match, there's 6 weeks of discussion about the cases. And these cases are structured so that it's extremely unlikely that a team of college students would reach closure immediately on the case. Even often there's significant disagreement among the team about the ethics bowl case. But to do well in the ethics in the competition, the team has to be united. It has to unite on an answer, a response to the question, which some of the team members may not agree with entirely, but which they recognize is a good answer, an answer that morally responsible and thoughtful person could make, even if they don't agree with it in every single respect. So Ethics Bowl promotes open mind. I think we can think of ethical understanding as having three components. One is open-mindedness. So the case preparation in Ethics Bowl works for promoting open-mindedness. There's willingness and readiness to interact conversationally. The dialogue between the presenting team and the competing team address that part of ethical understanding. And the final element of ethical understanding is deliberative thoughtfulness, which is different from just compromising. It's thinking through down to the core. And this is where the judges come in. I've been in Ethics Bowl now for 30 years, and I'm still in awe of the intensity with which the teams, in a very short amount of time that they have, ponder and think about the questions that are posed by a good judge. So I think implicit in sort of the educational theory, if you will, of Ethics Bowl, it's a view of it. I've come to the conclusion the heart of it is a view of ethical understanding that combines open-mindedness with willingness and readiness to engage in meaningful communication and deliberative thoughtfulness. And those are what Ethics Bowl is in the end about, educationally. So if I had to explain, as the rabbi says in a famous parallel of it, if I had to explain it standing on one foot, what ethical understanding is, I would say it means understanding the views of people with whom you disagree, which means being ready to talk about it, willingness to engage in meaningful communication, and thinking about it deliberatively. And that's really what's at the heart of Ethics Bowl. And I think the success of Ethics Bowl, in terms of popularity, is extremely encouraging, because it suggests that these ideas I've been talking about aren't just a synthesis of some philosopher's imagination. It would seem resonate with a great many people. So at 79 years of age, that's my take on Ethics Bowl. The question is, how does Ethics Bowl differ from debate? I think for people who are familiar with debate, the aspects of Ethics Bowl that I described, and I should mention what I'm describing is admittedly an idealized. It's the idealized version of Ethics Bowl, but I think it's approximated definitely in Ethics Bowl. If I can tell another story, in one of the early Ethics Bowls, we had a question about a decision that the then director of the Federal Department of Health and Human Services faced. He was a practicing Catholic, a serious Catholic, and there were regulatory guidelines HHS had put out. I can't remember the specifics of them, but they had indicated some regulatory guidelines concerning abortion. And the secretary, Joseph Califano, was a serious practicing Catholic who didn't believe in abortion, and the issue was the moral issue that he faced was how should he approach these guidelines that had been written that were counter to positions of the Catholic Church. And he wrote about that, and in the end he decided his responsibility as a citizen and an official of the government was to give effect to the will of the public reflected in the results of the democratic process. And it's a difficult question. And I remember after this was at one of the ethics bowls we had at Illinois Tech. When the match was over, one of the judges complimented the team member who had presented about that case. Said, you did a wonderful job on that. And the student said, you know what? I at bottom, I really didn't agree with that. But it was the team's position, and he understood it enough to make a convincing argument. Debate is for different. I should mention for 20 years I had a position as a special education due process hearing officer in Illinois. So I was in effect an administrative law judge, and I heard a lot of legal arguments back. I'm familiar with legal argument and its dynamics and its structure. And I'm going to take a little pass on answering this question because I think it implicates some very big issues about the philosophy of law and the relationship of law to morality, which fascinates me, and I could go on about it for a long time. But I'll just say they're different. They're related but different departments. Oh, now I'm going to break my rule and go on about what I said I'm not going to go on about. There's a wonderful book written by Robert Cover titled Justice Accused. And in Justice Accused, Cover discusses the situation that judges on the state and on the national level faced in the United States running up to in the period after the Act of 1850 that in effect strengthened the runaway slave laws and made other kinds of changes which hastened the coming of the Civil War in the United States. And it's a fascinating not a psychological study, but a jurisprudential study of the situation that American judges faced who were on moral grounds strongly anti-slavery, but had a judicial duty to apply the law. So, I mean, we're getting into a very big area, which is a subject for another discussion of this kind, I think.